I guess we can kind of just open by saying this is technically, I guess, my face reveal?
Yes, I think so.
I think. I mean, I was on some streams with the Lore Reloaded. I don't know if that counts how many people saw that, but probably more people are going to see this. So, why don't you explain? Why are we on a beach? Where have we been?
We've been at Tiger Day in Bovington. And then for some reason I can't remember exactly why, but we, instead of filming there, probably because there were so many people, we came down here to Weymouth and somehow have ended up on Weymouth Beach.
There you have it. So yes, we're recording this video from Weymouth Beach, which is fitting because we're talking about the Cardassian Klingon War, or the Klingon invasion of Cardassia. How that fits to a beach, I don't know, but so Cardassia, sand.
Sand is yellow, Cardassian ships are
yellow, exactly. Yes. So anyway, so basically the reason I wanted to talk about this was because, well, should we say, recent events have made me reconsider, my glasses fly, have made me reconsider the Klingon Cardassian War and how we should look at it, particularly in how the conduct of it went, and also something that you mentioned in one of the Q&A sessions where you suggested that actually the Klingons didn't slow down out of choice, which is kind of what I had always assumed, that there was actually a kind of a military reality behind it which made them go, oh, hang on, we've maybe got this a bit wrong. So I think the first thing to do is probably just, we're going to do in this video, just talk about the ships really, and just see how they stack up and how they match up, because I think when you really look at it, you can kind of see why they went wrong or what the problems might have been.
So yeah, when the Klingons go into Cardassian space, I think they find themselves on a bit of a, kind of, you see during TNG and early DS9, and I suspect it's probably true during much of the Lost era as well, the Klingons are always agitating to go to war with someone. Kind of like relive the glory days.
Yes.
But never do. And in some ways the Klingon Cardassian War to me resembles more of the dog that chases the car, and then one day it catches the car and they're like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Because if you like the glory days of the Klingon Empire, TOS basically, if you look at the ships they've got there, they've got the D7 in the TOS movie, or they've got the Katinga.
Yes.
They may or may not be a straight matchup for the Constitution, but the Constitution is kind of the mainline Starfleet ship, at least as far as we see.
Yes.
Obviously Beta Cannon has a few bigger ones, but it's kind of the main one that's probably going to oppose them, and everything else we see on screen is smaller. And the D7 and Katinga are roughly contemporary. I mean, Kirk treats, when a D7 shows up, he treats it as, okay, this is like, he's confident he'll win, but it's a good matchup for the Enterprise.
Yes.
So they're going in there with competitive peer ships. But by the time you get to the Klingon Cardassian War, they're still running Katingas, D7s, Birds of Prey, which are still just about a TOS era ship.
Yeah, so that's really the first issue, is you have this divide. So you have Vocha and Negh'var for whatever Negh'var does. I think it shows up and waves the flag. I don't think it really contributes all that much. Vocha is almost certainly the more significant contribution. But that's one ship, and then the others are Katingas that have been very heavily retrofitted, and Birds of Prey. And those are very, very old ships.
And Negh'var, from the way it's introduced in Way of the Warrior, you get, as you said, the distinct feeling that at that stage in time it is a one-off ship. It's not something that there's a lot of. Because if you think about, they're introducing their own ships, but a lot of the time when you see a galaxy being introduced, it'll be introduced as the Odyssey, the Yamato, the Enterprise, and someone along the line will mention it's Galaxy class.
Yes.
Whereas in Way of the Warrior, it's like, oh no, that's Gowron's flagship.
That is
the Negh'var. It's like, and it's not, oh, it's a Negh'var class, or that's one of the Klingon flagships. It's, so this is the flagship of Gowron, the High Chancellor.
Yes.
And as you say, the only other modern combatant they have is the Watcher, but we never see in TNG or even in DS9 up to that point, or arguably afterwards, we never see any indication that the Watcher is competitive 1v1 with a Warbird or a Galaxy, which are the flagship units of the other major powers in the area.
Now, equally, you match it up against Cardassian ships, and it does pretty well.
Yes.
You match it up sort of just size-wise with a Galor. I'll probably put in somewhere around here-ish.
Hello.
Here. A picture, a scale chart or something. So you guys have some reference. But effectively, it's about the same size as a Galor, except the Watcher is much leaner and more agile, and it's got a giant gun on the front.
Yeah, which in some ways, if they're really wanting the return to the old glory days, in some ways it kind of makes sense that of all the powers to pick on, they pick on the Cardassians, because they're the only ones where their latest and greatest modern fleet units are roughly contemporaneous in scale with the enemy's fleet units.
Yes. I mean, and that is it's the fight they can afford. Whereas, like, I mean, I've been considering this because I've been thinking about the Kittima massacre and that kind of border conflict with the Romulans and the Klingons, and what the Klingons would have to do, and because the natural Klingon thing to do would be strike back and fight back and get revenge on the Romulans, but we don't ever see the Klingons do this or get any suggestion that they did, and that's probably because somebody very sensible like Kempek was there saying, no, that's a really, really bad idea, we can't survive that.
I mean, it's fairly telling that it's a Klingon outpost, and you'd expect a frontier Klingon world where there is the potential of hostilities. You like the TNG Klingons that we see, or the DS9 Klingons, you'd expect like half the fleet to be in orbit, just salivating over the chance to get into a fight with someone.
Yes.
But then it's a case of, well, not only does there appear to have been no real defences of any description in terms of orbiting starships, but there wasn't even kind of like a Klingon version of the Enterprise, the only ship in the sector that could come and help. There's no indication that the Klingon defence forces were able to arrive, and this is Klingon territory, but the Enterprise C, which logically speaking is, on the Federation side of the border, can get there first.
Yes. Well, I think there's a whole kind of law you can go into the reduction of the size of the Klingon fleet after the Kittima Accords, and it probably just got like straight up slashed in half. That's something I kind of allude to in the Tomed incident, and they're really building them back up by the TNG era. So really what we have in Next Generation is, and in the invasion of Cardassia, is this kind of reconstituted fleet. This isn't the same fleet that they were planning to attack the Federation with in the movie era, with Katingas and all those kind of derivatives. This is a fleet that is a hodgepodge, that is a mix of the two. And you look at, whereas you compare that to the Cardassian fleet, and these are all classes that are built within a decade or so of each other.
Yeah, in some ways, obviously, linking back to our first videos where we were comparing, like, what era does the Star Trek universe in the 24th century sit in terms of, and it kind of matches up in a way, because the Klingon fleet circa Way of the Warrior and the Klingon Cardassian War, it reminds me in a lot of ways of the start of the German High Seas Fleet back in the early pre-Dreadnought era, because you've got Wilhelm II thinking he's going to be competitive. He's got a long way to go to catch up with everyone, which is where the Klingons are at. If you're talking about, if their latest and greatest is the Camarag and people are chucking out to Deredexes and Galaxies, and so one of the first the Germans try some rather complex pre-dreadnoughts that don't really work out too well, which you could, like I say, well, that's analogous to some kind of the experimental procedure. But then they come up with these smaller, lighter than everyone else's pre-dreadnoughts, armed with 9.4-inch guns, whereas everyone's using 11, 12, 13-inch. And they're like, oh yeah, but in the logic of the 1890s, they're like, oh well, they'll fire faster, and at close range they can penetrate the armor, so it should be fine. And I'm just wondering if whether the Vorchar heavy modern fleet that the Klingons have is kind of, that's where they are in that period, where they've kind of gone, we could build maybe something that'll go toe-to-toe with the Galaxy or a Dideridex 1v1, but that's going to take a lot of time, it's going to take a lot of money, it's going to take a lot of effort, and in the aftermath of having one of their border outposts blown up and the Federation having come to save them, I think, the Klingons are basic, they've looked at that. The Negh'var, I mean, when you look at the Negh'var, it's big and impressive, but it does look a little bit like if someone had, I mean, if you imagine if you'd had maybe Season 2, Season 3 TNG, you've seen the Enterprise square off against a Dideridex, and then if you saw a Negh'var sort of chugging along, and someone identified it, and oh yeah, well this is the Klingon heavy battleship or whatever, and you had this, you can almost see this whole spiel of like Data saying, yes, it's a Negh'var class, immense forward firepower, not as agile as us, launched 10 years before the Galaxy class or something. You can kind of see it fitting that. Yeah. So it makes me think that maybe the Negh'var was kind of almost like the Klingon Sovereign project, where they kept it ticking over. They develop it at the first, and they're like, no, we can't build those so quickly. Yes. But we can build this smaller, lighter, sleeker version. Yeah. And that's where you get the Vorcha fleet.
Yes. I mean, because then there's other stuff like from Klingon Academy, there's the D12, which I've just been looking at because I've been looking at Lost Era Klingon ships. And that's basically, looks Vorcha-ish. It's got the Basards and everything, but it's got 4 nacelles and it's quite large. And again, it's one of those areas where this is maybe what they were thinking about doing, and then actually they said no, Vorcha is the more sensible route to take. Yeah. Because, and also you think about it, just again comparing it to the original series era, the D7 Katinga, that's a battle cruiser. Vorcha is an attack cruiser, so it is a grade down.
Yeah. And I think maybe also from a perspective of the Klingon government, it's probably more sensible to start building Vorchas, because we know from TNG, when you've got the Klingon Civil War, and the run up to that, you do have the main Klingon fleet, but you also have fairly powerful forces in the hands of various houses. And if you turn around to those various houses and you say, we've got a new ship, it's a successor to the D7 Katinga line, it kind of follows that design lineage, you can all start building it, but with it being this sort of quick to build, fairly powerful, possibly slightly more fragile than average attack cruiser, it then means that the High Council can keep the Negh'var, the big bruiser, in their back pocket, and if it looks like some of the great houses are beginning to have ideas above their station, they can quietly start construction on that, so by the time everything kicks off, they're like, well, you may want to rethink that.
Yes, and even that is like this, and this is getting a little bit off topic, but when you see the Vorcha, the Bortas in Redemption, it appears like that's the only Vorcha, and that is, or one of a handful, and it is probably Gowron's flagship, and I almost question if the House of Duras even have any Vorcha.
Yeah, at that point, well, it would make sense, because if we consider, Worf was, a child at the time of at the time of the battle with the Enterprise C, and the Vorcha isn't brand new. It's not like everybody on the Enterprise D is like, oh wow, what's this?
Yeah, it's been around.
It's been around for, they are aware of it, so it's been in service for a few years, and then you have to factor in the time in between. You're probably talking maybe 20-25 years.
I'd be if we're talking next generation, I'd be closer to saying about 10.
10?
Sort of, it came out in the 50s.
No, I'm thinking between the massacre and the episode.
Okay, yeah.
So it's like, at that point, if you take it that the Klingons have gone, okay, we've got this massacre, we need to start developing a ship. They've got to work out what kind of specs they want. They've got to do test runs, etc. Then they've got to design it, prototype it, experiment with it. I mean, you look at how long it takes them to get warships into the sea these days.
Yes.
You know, having maybe a 15-year cycle from we need a new ship to new ship is
Built.
in commission.
Yeah.
That makes a degree of sense, and then that gives you like a 5 to 10 year window in which they turn a practical proof of concept into an actual ship, which then gets, you know, the Federation becomes aware of it, so they're not totally shocked when it rocks up in Redemption. But if you've just then handed the design specs out, you know, 5-10 years before Redemption to the great houses, it's still a much larger, much more modern, much more complex ship than a Katinga.
Yeah.
So those great houses are going to be upgrading their shipyards, getting in new materials, and maybe they have a bunch of Vorcha under construction,
Yes.
but they're still probably space frames in the process of being made at that point. Whereas by the time we get to Way of the Warrior and the subsequent Cardassian Klingon War, they've become considerably more common.
Yes. Now, yeah, something I think is worth bringing up is the question of, so basically the Klingon invasion happens, the Voyager does very well, and the Klingons are like 52 hours from Cardassia Prime. And then they stop. And then they stay there as well. And they stay there being attacked by the Cardassian fleet when it feels like it. Yes, the Cardassian government is like very pacifistic and is like, no more please. But you've also got, I'm sure Dukat was not the only guy who just went, no, I don't care, I'm fighting the Klingons. So, the question is, when you've got your Voyager, do you really want to put that in the line of danger?
Well, I think when you look at the way that the Voyager we see going after Dukat's ship is acting, it's acting and being captain almost like a giant bird of prey.
Yes.
You know, they did the whole decloak, fire maneuver, etc., recloak. It's obviously its backup to a squadron of birds of prey. And again, I think this comes back round to this whole idea of, you know, the dog chasing the car and not knowing what to do once they've caught it. Because yeah, against Galors and the rest of the Cardassian fleet, the Voyager's probably pretty deadly. It's got a lot of firepower, and it almost certainly can outmaneuver the Cardassian heavy ships.
Yes.
So it's going to be able, and I mean, we see, you know, there's no indication that the Klingons lost any ships.
No.
It's almost like they're like cat with a mouse. It's almost like they've been toying with it, because
Yes.
no one's going to come and rescue it. Obviously, they would have
Yes.
protected that. And you can bet, given that it's Dukat, if he destroyed any Klingon ships on his way out from Cardassia Prime, he would have mentioned that.
Yes, yes.
And yeah, so the Klingons have probably maybe gone into this thinking, we've got these new attack cruisers, we've ripped through the Cardassian fleet, and I'm thinking possibly one of the things is that when they get to the Cardassian core worlds and they have to contend with space stations, because I mean, okay, you've got DS9. We know that DS9 originally didn't have all that much in the way of weaponry, but it's a mining station, not a battle station. We see other Cardassian stations that are a bit more solidly built. You've got orbital defences with planetary shields, and suddenly having a really fast attack ship doesn't help you when you're going after a fixed emplacement.
No, yeah. I mean, the only thing that will help you there is the Negh'var.
Yeah.
And you've got one.
Yes.
And do you really want to risk that? I mean, the pride and the symbol of the Klingon fleet, do you really want to risk that getting taken down by torpedo turrets or something?
Yeah. And you can almost imagine, you know, that, as you say, they're this close, and then they hit these more fixed fortifications, and then they're faced with, well, we can either go after them en masse, and you're probably going to end up with a lot of ships damaged or destroyed, which will then give the Cardassian fleet an opportunity to counterattack, or do you establish a perimeter and look for weaknesses, look for openings? And I mean, given that we see especially even in the Dominion War, which is a lot more of an existential threat, we see that Gowron absolutely loves to grandstand.
Yeah.
And show himself as the head of the Klingon Empire. You can almost imagine Gowron just like, okay, everybody, form a blockade if you like, and you'll have cloaked raids and stuff, picking up starships and the odd thing like that. But then you'll have the Negh'var just steam in and pulverize a station with those massive heavy disruptors, and then everyone will celebrate and they'll occupy that bit, and look at Gowron, the great and glorious leader, and then the Negh'var will head back to patch up any paint scratches it's got.
Yes.
And then he'll leave them there. You can see Gowron doing this. Leave them to stew for another week or so, while they fruitlessly throw themselves at other defensive things. It's like, oh, well, though, look, the great High Chancellor has to come in and rescue them again.
Yeah.
And Gowron would draw this out as long as he possibly could for maximum personal glory. He's that kind of Klingon, because, similar to the Birds of Prey and the Vulture that are going after Dukat ship, no one's coming to save the Cardassians. I mean, they also have a bit of a border war with the Federation going on at that point. But they know no one's coming to save the Cardassians, so why make it short and sharp when you can have many glorious, honourable battles?
That is true. I mean, that does raise a point in that I think the only reason Gowron did call a stop at Deep Space Nine and didn't proceed with that kind of plan is because it was like, oh wait, but the Dominion are a thing.
Yeah.
He is at least aware of that enough to go, yeah, actually I might not want to not only put my ships at risk, but also risk destroying and damaging all this infrastructure that could well be turned to help us.
Yeah, and the Federation is obviously, they control DS9. They're the gatekeepers for the wormhole. So Gowron's probably thinking, the Federation can keep the Dominion off everyone's backs just in case. The Romulans are just the Romulans, so who cares? And they can just have a fun time, have a fun few years beating up on Cardassians.
Yes.
And as I say, even Worf admits the Klingons are like culturally way overdue a nice long war.
Yes.
And if the war's over in 5 minutes, if Gowron just goes steaming through to Cardassia Prime, blows it to pieces, and lands Klingon troops everywhere, it's not going to help him long term. It'll be a short-term glory, and then everyone will be like, oh yeah, we went to war, but it wasn't really very good. It's like a weekend war.
Yeah.
And then and actually, given that, as you say, like with Way of the Warrior, Gowron's not entirely stupid. He is aware of the Dominion, and he's probably aware that if the Klingons have a really short, sharp victory against the Cardassians, the next thing the hyper-aggressive faction of the Klingons are going to be doing is going to be looking at either the Romulans or the Federation and going, right, well, if that was so easy, we should be able to take these guys out. And then Gowron's sitting there going, well, one, we probably can't, and two, that really would be handing victory to the Dominion.
Yes.
So let's have a nice long, Cardassian shooting gallery.
Yes.
In everyone's interest.
But it's not as nice as he thinks it's going to be, because there are a couple of Cardassian ships that are perhaps worth talking about, or beta canon ones, which I think either the Klingons don't think about too much or they don't worry about. So one of them is, I would say, the Rysalak, which is that destroyer.
Yeah.
The Rysalak is very, very good at killing attack ships. And what is the majority of the Klingon fleet?
Various flavours of birds of prey.
Various flavours of birds of prey, mostly Borels in that episode. So, yeah, when that ship is already kind of compromised, not to mention the fact the bird of prey is old.
Yes.
I mean, yes, people will say it's rugged and reliable, but rugged and reliable doesn't keep you alive necessarily.
The T-62 is rugged and reliable. Current year.
Yes. Fortunately, the Tank Museum still has their T-62.
Yeah,
it's not disappeared.
We told them they should put a wheel lock on it just in case.
Yeah, we did check. But so already that's going to cause you some problems, and it's not something that's easily solvable.
No.
You could bring in like the Norg, the heavy birds of prey, but that's just a slightly heavier attack ship. That's made generally to kill probably other birds of prey in a Klingon civil war. It's not going to do anything against an actual destroyer.
No, and 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 then I think you'd also see the other thing apart from fortifications is that obviously the Cardassians are in this, in some ways similar to the Klingons, this desperate modernization and build-up program, but they have a slightly wider and deeper fleet base.
Yes.
Even if they don't have as many ships, they've got more different roles. And given that, and given their experiences in the Federation Cardassian War, they're probably not going to be patrolling the borders with their biggest and best. So they're going to have some galores out there, but maybe some of them, the Mark IIIs, the sort of the slightly
older ones,
they're sort of easier to manufacture types. They'll have Hidekis because they're patrol ships. That makes sense to have on the border. But if they're desperately building up these other ships, and they've got some slightly nicer models of galore floating around, again, given the Cardassians seem to be a very defensive, very calculating people, they're probably all mostly in the core systems. And so you can imagine like a Burrell fleet blowing its way easily through a patrol line of Hidekis, Vorchers completely stomping and cheap model galores, and happily marching through the colonies, marching through the lesser worlds, and then you get to the core, and all of a sudden not only have you got stations, shields, planetary defences, you're also coming up against things like Ryslax and high-end galores.
Yes.
And the Klingon lines of communication and supply are quite large, and the Cardassian lines of communication and supply have been shrinking and shrinking and shrinking.
Yes.
So all of a sudden, if let's say a Ryslax squadron wipes out a bird of prey attack wing in one system, and the Klingons like, oh, that sucks, right? And once they figured out that happens, all right, we'll send another bird of prey wing to this other system. But actually, in that time, that destroyer squadron's probably had a chance to reposition itself and can be waiting for them as well.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, because also with the Klingon fleet, you're also thinking about they have to communicate, or I mean, they could communicate openly, but they are a fleet that is cloaked for the most part. And that does necessitate a different approach to communication. You can't be as vocal.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to keep stum sometimes, and that's a time in which the enemy can be talking and be moving.
Yeah, and also again coming back round to a lot of the Klingon forces made probably of house forces isn't going to help them, because you're going to have Klingon houses with different rivalries, different priorities, and again, you look at the DS9 Klingons, you can easily see like one fleet maybe taking out or getting a decent fight out of and getting the advantage over a Cardassian force in one system, but in a logical military setup, the Cardassian forces in the next system would come and help, but then as a Klingon force, you should then have your own separate forces go into that system and tie them down while you take this first system. But if you're talking about rival houses, then you'd have one house is a bit damaged, a little bit reeling, but they've won. The forces in the next system are like, well, we should probably go and help, and that system's Klingon attack forces are from a house that has issues with the first one. Yeah. And they'd be like, yes, it would be such a tragedy if our rival house had two great and honourable battles in one day, wouldn't it? And just watch the Cardassian forces merrily go on their way, wipe out that Klingon force, and then this second Klingon force thinking, well, and also this system is now undefended, so we can take it for the greater glory of our house. And except that because they've just handed that force an easy victory, they'll be happily occupying and looting the place when that force comes back. The Cardassians come back again and finish them off as well.
Yes, I mean it's almost like having two commanders who don't like each other is not a good idea for a functioning military. Yeah. It's almost like that's a bad idea. I will pick up on one thing. I'm not sure that the house fleets are actually in play. Given the numbers we hear, it's about 100 odd ships. And my guess is that the Klingon Defence Force, i.e. the professional force answerable to the Chancellor, that's probably about 300 ships, about 100 less than the Federation in TNG. So, I mean, you wouldn't have that. I say you're not meant to have that problem.
No.
Because you're meant to swear loyalty to the Chancellor. But I could still see that being a problem because that brigade commander over there, he's from a rival house.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking, I think the Klingon Defense Forces, the governmental ones, were probably stretched a bit thin because, you've launched this invasion of Cardassia, but you're also going to be going, if we go all that way, the Romulans might take advantage. So you're going to have someone you can rely on there. So that's probably Klingon Defense Force.
Yes.
And then, of course, the Federation sticks their roar in. So you've got this border war with the Federation. Now that could be, because it's on the Klingon border, that could be a mixture of great houses and defence fleet assets. But you're going to want, again, it's a secondary front, you're going to want someone reliable at least leading it. So you're probably going to have defence fleet assets there. And looking at the way the Klingon culture works, you might have a core of defence fleet assets going after Cardassia. But because we know how sensitive Klingons are about honour and everyone else getting honour and them not getting honour, you can kind of see in a High Council meeting, if Gowrons says, oh yes, well the Klingon Defence Fleet will purge the Cardassians of changeling infiltrators, you can just see a bunch of sort of Klingon Great House representatives going, oh, how dare you, launch a war? We haven't had a war for 70 years, and now
you're not doing it without me.
Yeah, you're going to go in, and the Defence Fleet forces will have all the glory, and the High Council will sign off on your invasion, but every great house has to send a squadron, so everyone gets the glory, and that's where it all starts to fall apart because everyone's competing with each other.
You think about it from Gowrons' perspective, again, particularly because they're doing this whole occupation thing. Do you really want to leave your professionals where they're not necessarily that leaders, you're just holding ground, you're holding territory, and the chances are they will get killed by a Cardassian ambush because those kind of things are indiscriminate. Equally, you might say they're not going to be as easily manipulated and tricked as the great houses are, because that's that line from what's the episode? Soldiers of the Empire, where the Cardassians have a scheme within a plot leading to a trap, or something very convoluted like that, and you can see that's largely because they're probably preying on Klingon psychology.
Yeah.
We never really see the Cardassians in the Dominion War, and granted, that's maybe because they're under Dominion leadership, but we never really see the Cardassians playing mind games with the Federation.
No. About the closest we come in Sacrifice of Angels, where Ducat's kind of walking Weyoun through basic, centre, full-back and pincer movement 101, and Weyoun's looking at it like, tactics?
Tactics.
But no, the Jem'Hadar just ram things and shoot things until things have gone away. That's how it works, right?
Yeah, pretty much. So, I mean, possibly there is that degree of Cardassian psychology, but the Klingons are certainly the easiest to exploit. And when you have ships like Ryslak, which again, I mean, if a Votchar shows up and goes after a Ryslak, the Ryslak better run, and it better run fast, because the Votchar is a quick attack cruiser and it can catch it, probably.
Yeah.
Another example is, well, you've got a matchup here, which I think is interesting to consider. The Katinga, which is even older than the Bird of Prey, technically, if we say that they are modified D7s going back to the TOS era. And they've been modified into these sort of long-range monitors with these long lance phasers, and they're shooting at DS9, and they look reasonably good. And I think we even see them in a couple other battles. But then you have the Cardassian Vasad, which was, well, not completely built for that, because it was originally like a cargo hauler. You put a big bit of cargo in between those mandibles, drives along with that. But it's a much larger frame, and it's, again, much more recent. And you think, well, okay, in that matchup, I would favour the Vasad.
Well, yeah, and again, culturally as well, because the idea of sitting back, semi-concealed, and then hitting your enemy really quickly with massive firepower to overwhelm them, and then just laughing at the victory, is a very Cardassian thing to do. I mean, we see Ducat with his refitted freighter does that a lot. It's
Yes.
like, if you'd given him a facade with a vague pretense of being a cargo ship, he would have rejoiced.
Yes.
But we know that for the Klingons, sitting back at long range and sniping away at people is not what they want to be doing. I mean, I know Worf says in battle nothing is more honourable than victory, but the way most Klingons try to get victory is very different. I mean, you even see that with with the rescue of Dukat and the Tatapa Council. The Defiant's there. Everybody could see the Defiant was there. Okay, they disabled one bird of prey, but then the Klingons kind of feed themselves at the Defiant one-on-one. Whereas if given there were multiple birds of prey there, if they just all decloaked and gone, right, hello, the Defiant would have been in a lot of trouble, because the Defiant was able to dogfight birds of prey and then hold off the Vorcha with its tractor beam.
Yes.
But if everyone had gone after it at once, if it was holding off the Vorcha, a bird of prey would have just been like, la la la, gun, 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 gun.
Or, and again, like the Vorcha was very keen to make the gun kill. It wanted to hit it with the disruptor. Probably could have, it's an attack cruiser, could have decloaked at long range and just torpedoed the Defiant into oblivion. But no, because they want the glory hunting, because they want those kills.
Yeah. And to be honest, like at that point, they were like, the Defiant's objective, the whole point of that whole tractor beam exercise was so they could drop their shields to rescue Dukat ships. It wasn't going to last very long against the bird of prey attack, and then it went into catastrophic overload. If you wanted to be absolutely Cardassian style ruthless, and you were the Vorcha captain, just decloak and volley a bunch of torpedoes and disruptors into the Tatapa Council ship. It explodes. Now what are you going to do?
Yes, yeah.
It's like mission failed already for the Defiant.
Yeah, it's like the Klingons saw something shiny. They're like crows. They see something shiny and they just go after it.
Yeah, you can see the captain of the warship. There is no honour in destroying a ship that's already half destroyed anyway. But the Federation's newest shiny attack ship, that'll add a nice kill tally. And so somewhere in the fleet, the one sane Klingon is just going, no, objectives.
Yeah, it's like, you're meant to be killing the Tatapa Council, not starting a war with Starfleet. But again, there's that kind of escalating, they're sort of susceptible to overreach of objectives.
Yes.
Because then it escalates, doesn't it? It's now, the Defiant got away, I guess we'll leave it at that. No, we'll go to Deep Space Nine and we'll call in the rest of the fleet as well.
Yes.
They're not very good at cutting losses and deciding, where is a good point to aim for.
Yeah, they don't. They want to recover their honour. It's like the Defiant has dishonoured me by stealing the Tatapa Council from under my nose. I must call in all my friends.
Yes, and you just end up with this sort of ever-expanding scope of an operation until it just turns into this massive mess. And you could easily see how the Cardassians could exploit that, even with less ships. I mean, you look at and the Cardassians also have the advantage of looking weak individually. You could float basically any ship, particularly some of those older ships, say, oh look, here's a convoy guarded by some old Kulanors from the border wars. Oh no, I hope Klingons don't attack us.
Yes.
Oh look, the Klingons attacked us.
Yeah, and then all the Klingons raging about how it was very, very dishonourable, and the Cardassians just like, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so I think that's the interesting thing with the kind of the tactics that you end up having. And you also, to an extent, maybe you say you blame the ship designs for the kind of tactics they use, because the Klingon ships are very aggressive, so even if you're a very standoffish Klingon, you're like, I have to close, I have to get close. You don't really have many other options.
No, you don't have. Yeah, apart from maybe some refitting things, you don't have a long-range fire support option. You have. You've got, and it's also just the temptation, isn't it? You've got loads of close-range weapons. You've got kind of fixed disruptor cannons. You've got a cloak that means the Cardassians can't see you coming. They're giving no indication that they can see you coming. So why wouldn't you close? It's like everything is pointing to this is what you should do, but of course. It doesn't take
a genius
particularly to realise that's exactly what's going to happen every single time.
Yes.
So the Cardassian Pacific, they're going, yeah, well, we expected that to happen, and because of that, we have laid like 15 traps.
Yes, yes. And you also look at the Cardassian fleet, and it's much more well-rounded. You mentioned, they have this kind of base of ships, and you can see the level of evolution. Klingon fleet, again, if you look at it as a lineage, you have Katinga and Bird of Prey, and then suddenly there's Vulture. And you're like, where has this come from? It has nothing in common. Whereas Cardassians, you have, Ekor, Kulanor, Galor, then more advanced versions of the Galor. You can see where it's all come from, and there's a common kind of operation. Whereas again, you think about logistically supporting the Klingons, again, thinking that this is a fleet on expedition far away from their home territory. Okay, hopefully the Bird of Prey and Katinga have compatible components because they're relatively contemporaneous. But the Vulture is completely separate. So any kind of replacement parts you're going to need for a Vulture, that's a whole separate supply chain.
Yeah, and something that, again, by all indications, is probably a relatively speaking new one, a new supply chain, and with the demands of opening up a front with the Federation, there's also going to be I demand 4 spare Vulture warp nacelles. It's like, well, sorry, but the last Vulture warp nacelle in this sector went that way to the Federation front 2 days ago, and then orders being countermanded and countermanded, and which is the priority, etc., etc. And you'd have this. I think you'd have this weird dichotomy of the Cardassian war was their main objective, and they're deep in enemy space, so surely they should be pushing to finish it off. But simultaneously, the Federation conflict is on their border, so if they don't support that, they could lose their own territory, whereas if they pause in Cardassian space, they still have Cardassian space.
Yes, and who really cares if you lose a bit of territory in Cardassia?
Yeah.